You can start miking Lecrae.
Hello, Mr. Lewis. Good to meet you. My name is Jeff.
Good to meet you, Jeff.
It's an honor to have you here.
Well, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Well, Congressman, thanks for being here and for taking time to build into both of us.
Thank you all for having me. It's an honor.
Someone on your team told me this story, how you began, something about writing a letter to Dr. King and something about a bus ticket.
Well, I grew up in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery. And when I finished high school in 1957, I applied to enter a college called Troy State College. It's now known as Troy University. Submitted my application, my high school transcript. I never heard a word from the school. It didn't admit black students. So I wrote a letter to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He wrote me back and sent me a round-trip ticket. I boarded a bus and traveled to Montgomery and went to a little church, pastored by the Reverend Ralph Abernathy, who had been a lawyer for Rosa Parks and for Dr. King. And he ushered me in. I was so scared. I didn't know what to say or what to do. And Dr. King said, "Are you John Lewis? Are you the boy from Troy?" And I said, "Dr. King, I am John Robert Lewis." I gave my whole name. And he started calling me the boy from Troy. And he told me if I pursued my interest to enter Troy, my parents' home could be burned. I could be beaten. Something could happen to my family. So I went back and had a discussion with them. And they were so afraid they didn't want to have anything to do with my attending Troy University. So I continued to study in Nashville. We started studying what Gandhi attempted to accomplish in South Africa and what he accomplished in India. We studied what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks were all about. And then we started sitting in at lunch counters in restaurants. And we'd be sitting there in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion, waiting to be served. And someone would come up and spit on us. Or put lighted cigarettes out in our hair, or down our backs, pour hot water, hot coffee, hot chocolate on us. And we kept sitting in. And one day we heard that if we continued to sit in, we would be arrested. Going to jail, getting arrested. I felt free. I felt liberated. I felt like I had crossed over.
You know, over 50 years ago, you were part of the March on Washington, countless other marches. You know, what type of emotions does all of those things bring up for you that we may not be able to fully grasp or wrap our minds around?
You have an opportunity to talk with Martin Luther King Jr., with Rosa Parks, or with Thurgood Marshall. It just inspired you. It gave you this great sense of determination that you had to go on. We were out to redeem the soul of America, to create what Dr. King called the beloved community. And the feeling that within all of us, there's a spark of the divine. And we should not abuse it or try to destroy it.
You know, surely history repeats itself. And I mean, we've seen a lot of people wanting to respond to brutality with immediate action sometimes. When you all were, you know, walking in the way of nonviolence and peace, how did you respond to a lot of the opposition that said this was too slow of a process or not immediate enough or it wasn't bringing the results that you wanted to see?
During that period, we had to say over and over again that the struggle to redeem that society is an ongoing struggle. It is a struggle of a lifetime. But if you want to create a society at peace with itself, the means, the methods must be one of love, one of peace, one of nonviolence. In 1961, the same year that President Barack Obama was born, black people and white people could be seated together on a Greyhound bus, leaving Washington, D.C. to travel through the South. We were testing a decision of the United States Supreme Court. And along the way, we arrived in a little town called Rock Hill, South Carolina, about 30 or 35 miles from Charlotte, North Carolina. We started in a so-called white waiting room. And we were attacked and beaten and left lying in a pool of blood. And the local police officials came up wanting to know whether we wanted to press charges. We said no. We believe in a way of peace, in a way of love, in a way of nonviolence. In February '09, One of the people who had beaten us, he was in his 70s, came with his son, who was in his 40s, and he said, Mr. Lewis, I'm one of the people that beat you and your seatmate. Will you forgive me? I want to apologize. His son started crying. He started crying. And I said, I accept your apology. I forgive you. They hugged me. I hugged them. It is the power of the way of peace, the way of love, the way of nonviolence.
I think in today's society, everyone wants these societal change. They want to be a part of these movements, but they rarely want to do the hard work that it takes to bring change. You've experienced deep suffering as a part of that change. Some of the people pursuing dreams of today, they have to overcome fears, and it's different than what you experienced that day. But how did you overcome fear in so many of those situations?
Well, and if you want change, if you want to bring about a nonviolent revolution, a revolution of values, a revolution of ideas, you have to be prepared to pay a price. It may mean going to jail for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. It may even mean death. But you have to believe in something that is so precious, almost sacred, that you're willing to give it everything you have. Sometimes you have to do what I call have an executive session with yourself. Just don't talk back to yourself. and just say to yourself, it's going to be all right. It's going to work out. But it's also this feeling that I'm like a tree planted by the rivers of waters. I'm anchored. You come to that point and you say, I cannot turn back. I'm not going to give up.
In this fight for nonviolence and for peace and for justice, there's such a dedicated focus and vision and mission, and even to this very day, what did and what do the down times look like, the fun times, the enjoyable times? You know?
Well, I tell you, within the movement itself, we had some fun time. We had some times of great joy, and sometimes you go straight from jail to a little club, and you listen to some music, rock and roll, folk song, gospel. If it hadn't been for music, the civil rights movement would have been like a bird without wings. Sometimes when you've been beaten, arrested, and going to jail, you would just sing. In the South, they would segregate us. White and African American get arrested together, thrown in jail. Then they would put all of the white guys in one cell block and all of the black guys in another one. And they segregated the women. But we could sing and sing so loud that we could communicate. Music is powerful, very powerful. And I often think, hadn't been for music, what would have happened to many of us?
I have a different type of question for you. In Atlanta, you walk the streets of Atlanta, you drive around in Atlanta, and you see all these street names, and all the names are named after your old friends, right? And I'm curious, when you drive the streets and you see these places that Hosea Williams, I mean, it just goes on.
Well, it's unreal. It's unbelievable to see a street named Martin Luther King.
Right.
And I said to myself, oh, I wonder what would Dr. King say back?
I know, right?
Hosea Williams, Ratha Abernathy,
Right.
Joe Laurie, Andy Young. It says something about the distance we've come and the progress we've made. But the street should inspire other people to say, why is that street named Martin Luther King Jr.? Why is that street named Ratha Abernathy, Hosea Williams, Andrew Young? Why is that street named Rosa Parks? Inspire young people, students, to study, to find out something about these different individuals.
I guess I wonder, from your perspective, what was effective then versus now, or what can we learn from then to help us in today, in achieving justice, equality, peace, and unity?
I think we can learn so much from what happened during the 50s and the 60s. So when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to do something. You have to say something. You have to Say, this is not right. It's not fair. It's not just. You have to keep making some noise. Sometimes I say we're just too quiet. Make a little noise, stir up things. When I was growing up in rural Alabama and would ask my mother and my father and my grandparents and great-grandparents, why this, why that? They would say, don't get in the way, don't get in trouble. But I tell people, especially young people and my colleagues in the Congress, it's time for us to get in trouble. Good trouble, necessary trouble. Teach people what's wrong with loving everybody. Dr. King would say sometime in meeting, he said, just love the hell out of everybody. just love everybody. It is better to love than to hate. That hate is too heavy a burden to bear. We shouldn't be afraid of the changes that have occurred in America. We should embrace the changes.
All those steps of progress. Curious, were there ever moments where you felt like progress was happening right before your eyes, where you were encouraged?
I saw progress. I felt it. I tasted progress. I've seen restaurants and lunch counters end discrimination just like that. Because of what happened on Bloody Sunday, March 7, 1965, when we tried to walk from Selma to Montgomery, President Lyndon Johnson came and spoke before a joint session of Congress and made one of the most meaningful speeches that any American president had made in modern time. He started that speech off that night by saying, I speak tonight for the dignity of man and for the destiny of democracy. He said, and we shall overcome. He was the first American president to cite the theme song of the movement, and we shall overcome. Bringing down those signs that said white waiting, colored waiting, white men, white women, colored women. Those signs are gone, and they will not return. The only places our children and their children will see those signs today will be in a book, in a museum, on a video. So when people tell me nothing has changed, I feel like saying, come and walk in my shoes.
Just being a father myself and trying to paint a picture for my children, what do you think is important to impart to future generations?
Well, I think it's important to tell our children, our young people, about what this country is, the distance we've come, the progress we've made. Always tell them to be kind. Never hate. It's better to love. And I tell them never to give up. Never become bitter. Never become hostile. And hold on to your dreams.
But thank you for this time.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Thank you. Enjoy it. Thank you.